Emergencies can strike unexpectedly, making business as usual impossible. Preparedness is the key. How prepared is your organization to respond to emergencies? And what steps can you take to protect your business, your employees, and their families? The answer is much simpler than you might think. One of the best ways to ensure the health and safety of your employees is creating a plan for dispensing medications in the event of an emergency. Such a plan can serve you in many types of emergencies, including the unthinkable.
In today's world, we do have various threats. We do have terrorist groups. We do have a need to plan for things that can impact an organization, a business, and its ability to continue staying in business.
What we have here is called a closed pod drill. We are coordinating with the county and many of our community partners in response to prepare ourselves so that we're ready in an event that we would be required to take care of our employees and their families in a very expedient, short time frame. So that's what we're doing here. What you see behind me is an actual pod site.
Most exercises that we have had in the past are focused on natural disasters, maybe internal disasters. This one's focused clearly on distribution of medications to our staff.
Since 2002, the Fresno County Department of Public Health has been working with city, county, and other stakeholders on plans to respond as quickly as possible to preserve health and prevent the spread of disease in case of a bioterror attack or other public health emergency. An essential part of this process involves dispensing medicines or other essential support to large numbers of the population. This is referred to as mass prophylaxis. The locations where this takes place are known as points of dispensing, or pods. To better protect businesses, a presidential initiative was launched to allow for the creation of closed pods, or CPODs. The primary function of a CPOD is to allow businesses to care for their own employees and their families in-house during an actual emergency event. The dispensing of medications in a CPOD is a non-medical model that provides for non-medical people to dispense pills for prophylaxis in a declared emergency.
It's not difficult, but it does take some planning and some organization. People who are thinking about closed pod, or businesses or organizations are considering doing a closed pod, should think about how they would get all their employees together, have them come back in, communicate with their employees, as well as having a dispensing plan for who would give out the medication. In a closed pod, they utilize what's called a non-medical model. So therefore, in an emergency event, you don't have to have medical personnel giving out the medication. It could be volunteers, it could be employees, it could be supervisors, but they don't have to be with a medical background.
The Department of Public Health, working with a business, can actually engage quickly on a very timely manner, quickly, and get medicine to those employees, because the employer will tell us who's showing up to work, when they'll be there, and we'll have plenty of time to work with the employer to dispense medications if necessary or help distribute any medical supplies. So that's the benefit of working with employers.
Closed pods, the operation, the concept for us is something totally new. So, we have to reach out to those folks that have some experience in helping us develop and plan for this.
Working with the Fresno County Department of Public Health is an added benefit to creating your CPOD. Their experience can go a long way in helping you to accomplish your goals.
They've been instrumental in terms of our processes, in terms of the training, in terms of observing our exercises and participating in those exercises and providing us feedback. And I think that's all critical in terms of really coming up with what you need in terms of a responsive organization. Initially in the pre-planning, what we've done is we've put together procedures and plans with the assistance of the County Public Health Department and our folks in Washington. We solicited for volunteers. We've got volunteers for the teams. We provided the training, and then we tested those plans under a simulated environment based on threats that we know about, and responding to those and determining how well these plans work and how well we're organized, so that if we ever have to activate a CPOD team, we would be able to do that.
An organization or a facility who's interested in setting up or starting a closed pod plan would have to think about the number of employees they have, the volume, and their family members, the size room they would have to consider to have that, what types of modalities or methods to dispense medication. Would it be what's called a traditional point of dispensing, like a room where you would have people come and report? Would it be a drive-through dispensing clinic where you would have employees drive up and pick up their medication? Or would you have them go to a pre-designated spot? Or would the employees have access to it from another method? So there's a little bit of setup and planning involved from the organization. They would have to look at how many employees they're talking about, their situation, what their setup is, and what it's going to take to do that.
The benefits to your company of having your own CPOD are many. As part of the county plan, you'll receive medications as early as they're available. You'll operate out of your own space and with your own people.
An organization has an advantage of doing a closed pod in that their employees will get the medication first. They would get the medication, the organization would get the medication at the same time that we would be establishing our community pods. So therefore, the employees don't have to worry about going to a public point of dispensing. They could come to their work site where they know, and with people they know, to come pick up their medications.
In this way, you'll be able to treat your employees sooner than the general population. And since you know your employees, you'll be better able to coordinate and support them to make sure everyone gets what they need.
The benefits, I think, to us, we actually realized what we were going to be faced with in terms of if we had any major event in the area that we would actually have to activate the plan and put it in place, realizing the impact area-wide was a surprise in terms of the support that our folks have provided.
Lines for parking and lines for treatment at public facilities may be long.
I think what's appealing about it is it provides for our employees a safe place to come and get medicines at a time that could be very chaotic in the public, depending on whatever type of threat or incident that we might be faced with. So it provides a safety net for our folks.
And you'll lighten the burden on public facilities by taking care of your own. In short, having a CPOD is the best way to ensure that your staff and their families are taken care of as quickly as possible. In some emergencies, time is the most important factor determining health and survival. Conducting a CPOD is simple. The county plan calls for organizing 3 basic stations: sign-in, forms review, and dispensing. Of course, there are other support activities like receiving and storing medications, keeping records, and communicating with emergency operations centers. But in general, it's all very simple.
Usually what we do is we ask them to work with us and we set up plans on how they would get the medication. Traditionally, most of our closed pod partners come and pick up the medication, their supply of medication. We do pre-planning on how many employees, how many doses of medication they would anticipate. they would come to our warehouse or our designated distribution point to pick up their medication and take it back to their organization.
And even better, organizing for emergencies and practicing dispensing of medications will prepare your organization with important skills and knowledge that can be applied in most other emergencies. When planning for your CPOD, remember to involve your staff as much as possible. Employee volunteers can be invaluable to the success of your CPOD. Take their skills and their input into consideration. Be enthusiastic and supportive. It's a great opportunity for teamwork and collaboration for the benefit of everyone.
Be prepared to do plenty of communication ahead of time. Make sure that it's clear and consistent for all your recipients of that message across the board. I think that's been one of our challenges too. I got lots of challenges, but no, we've had that's been one of the challenges, making sure that we address each of those groups appropriately with the communication.
Volunteers within the CPOD will receive medication first, and if take-home prescriptions are involved, additional medication for those living in their households. The most extreme case, and the standard for which we train, is bioterror anthrax attack. In an anthrax attack, the maximum window for emergency treatment is around 48 hours. Why the rush? If a person is exposed to a deadly biological agent such as anthrax, plague, or tularemia, their odds of survival are greatly improved if they receive protective medication before becoming symptomatic. This strategy of providing preventative medication to the exposed while they're still healthy is called post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. For PEP to be maximally effective, exposed persons need to be prophylaxed as soon as possible after exposure. Time is critical. In vulnerable individuals, symptoms may begin to appear as early as 24 hours.
The other thing, it provides our employees an opportunity to get their medicines very quickly. By having the medicines distributed to us and us having a CPOD team, we can distribute those out to our employees and they can begin taking medicines very rapidly, as opposed to having to deal with a public pod.
In a real event, energy and emotions will be running high. A balance must be sought between the time pressure and individual service. This is easy to forget, especially during drills where cooperation and positive experience are more imperative than speed.
Get plenty of rest before you do the exercise. Make sure you get lots of sleep. They'll be flexible. You really have to roll with the punches through these exercises. Make sure that you leave some room for flexibility to accommodate for some of those variables. Things are going to come up at the last minute that you really didn't expect.
The Fresno County Department of Public Health uses the federally defined Incident Command System, or ICS. ICS has 5 activities at work in the pod: command, operations, planning, logistics, and finance administrative support. Command is handled in each CPOD by a staff under the direction of a site manager, responsible for overall pod operations. The site manager is the primary on-site decision maker. Site managers and their command staff will communicate beyond the pod to the County Department Operations Center, or DOC, which will in turn communicate up the chain of command with operational area, regional, state, and federal officials. Operations is the center stage of the pod mission. Most of you will be assigned to jobs in the operations section. Your role is dispensing the medication. The planning section keeps ahead of pod operations by anticipating needs and problem solving in advance. The planning section monitors operations and reports to the pod site manager and, if designated, up to the county DOC or Department Operations Center. The logistics section manages supplies and equipment. From medicines to clipboards, they'll make sure your station or area is supplied with everything you need. The finance section tracks and records everything. They're responsible for purchasing supplies and maintaining records of resources and personnel needed to keep the pod functioning. You might think of the CPOD like a restaurant with two simultaneous functions: front of the house, where medications are being given, and back of the house, where staff is supporting the front of the house operation. In the front of the house, operations is teamed with planning. Operations carries out dispensing, and planning handles the paperwork and monitoring to keep it going smoothly. Behind the scenes, at the back of the house, logistics is teamed with finance. Logistics provides supplies, and finance accounts for them. All of these sections work interdependently under the supervision of command.
It's very easy. It's completing the form or filling out the form, showing your form to the intake people, picking up your medication, and then leaving. It's a very simple process. It doesn't require a lot once you're at that position of having employees come through.
Now let's take a look at the CPOD from the employee's perspective. The CPOD is meant to be fast and simple. Fill out a form, have it reviewed for allergies or complications, and receive medication. The first station is forms, where important medication health history will be filled out. The history needed varies with the medication and will arrive along with instructions and the specific medication for a particular event. Staff will be given screening forms to complete. They may pick up medicine for other family members, but they'll need to complete the screening information for each person. One reason a CPOD can be an advantage is that staff members can be educated early about what information they'll need for family members, and they can keep it on file at work. If an emergency occurs, family screening information is handy. If you encounter someone who's already sick, quickly separate them from the rest of the crowd. Don't send them through the CPOD, but get them to an outside medical team. If they're in need, they'll be transported to a healthcare facility for treatment. The next station, Review Forms, will quickly check the screening form for all no answers in the history section and direct clients to the pickup medicine station. If the history section shows a yes, it means the client has an allergy or complication that needs to be referred to medical professionals. The recommended course of action is to refer these clients to their own physician for further treatment. However, in some cases, clarification or guidance can be received from the medical provider over the phone or via web-based technologies such as Skype. This is another advantage of the CPOD, because staff can call their doctors right from their desks. At the pickup medicine station, clients will be given their medicine and medicine for their family members if appropriate. An anthrax scenario calls for pill dispensing. Other situations may require vaccine injections. Injection pods will have a different dispensing plan, but all other parts of the pod should be roughly the same. Pills are easier because one person can pick up medications for entire households. If injections are required, the CPOD becomes an easy location for families to meet and get their injections together.
Well, our primary objective was to test the throughput of the system. I think our target was to get 50% of our employees through and practice the distribution of medication to 50% of our staff.
With their medications in hand, employees will then exit. If additional information is available, it should be placed near but not blocking the exit. Depending on the disaster, psychological first aid can be as important as medication. Guidance on what to do during an emergency can be gotten from the Public Health Department or organizations like the Red Cross. Be aware that often in emergencies, the real mental health issues do not show up until 30 days or longer after the event. And while you're busy taking care of others, don't forget to take care of yourself. Everyone working during an emergency must take special care to take breaks and stay hydrated.
Don't forget the coffee. Make sure the coffee and the nourishment is available for everyone, so when they do arrive and they are working for you, that they do have the nourishment and the hydration that they need to stay on the job.
And always remember that communication is key to a successful CPOD, not only in the planning stages, but during CPOD exercises and actual emergencies. Make sure that your team has an understanding of the chain of communication, and make sure that your communication links to the county remain active.
Challenges of putting together an exercise of this nature is thinking of all the variables involved with the different facilities. We have a large organization. There's 3 acute care facilities, over 6,500 employees. So communication has been a challenge. How do we reach the different groups to be able to get the numbers in that we want to test our system? I believe that's probably been a challenge for us in getting the word out there in a way that is inviting for folks to come in.
So, to review quickly, dispensing is the primary mission, so those handing out medications must work efficiently. Pre-bagged medications, signs, and printed materials help, but most important is teamwork. And if there are questions, try to draw people out of the pod and make sure they don't slow down the dispensing process.
The largest challenge in setting up a closed point of distribution site is getting the logistics in place. You need to have a flow set up to where people are not being held up in long lines. You need it to flow very quickly so they can come down, they can get their medications, and get out in an expedient manner.
County Interaction's been great. Actually, they've been highly involved from the very beginning in setting this up and have acted to really help us out in developing the pods. A lot of our information came from the county as well as the state. State leads for the pods. But it's been great, a good collaborative effort with the county, and we appreciated their coming to the table and working with us. I look forward to working with them in the future too.
Creating a CPOD has many benefits. Not only will it save lives and protect your employees and their families, but it can be a rewarding collaborative experience for everyone. So next time you think about team building, consider a CPOD exercise.
It's a great thing to have in place if you're thinking about running a pod or considering it been offered to host a pod. Do it. It's the best thing you can do for your employees, and that whatever community that you're looking at serving, it's a great way to address that and show your employees, in our case, our employees, that we care and that we want to make sure that they're healthy through an event and that they can stay here and keep working with us to manage the event.
Do it. It's a lot of fun. Don't be afraid. It's all going to work out, and even with all of the mistakes and all of the food pods that were unanticipated, it still turned out okay, and we got the data that we needed, and it was well worth the effort.
The Fresno County Department of Public Health thanks you for watching this presentation. Advanced training for station leaders, command staff, and individual ICS sections is available in other training modules. Your participation and continued training for public health disasters helps ensure that we're all as ready as we can be when our coworkers and our communities need us. For more information on setting up a CPOD, contact the Fresno County Department of Public Health. Brought to you by Fresno County Department of Public Health and Applied Creative Training.